everyone up here.
Okay. So I would like to invite back up, and I'll show the other artists. Right?
I don't understand
We have
why is that unplugged.
Dana,
Oh, that's to.
Alex.
I see. There's too much for me. That was to the Black Magic.
And we're trying, we're hoping that
No.
you'll be doing virtually, that you launch and
We could turn lights
Sound of
on.
the Ghost, which is one of the sound pieces, on these iPads that are on the hallway here. Oh, there they are. Let me launch.
They're not gonna. We have an audio problem.
We have an audio. It's always our greatest fear.
Yeah.
Bear with us.
Can you
folks.
find your board? You guys can. You can. Just you can have to start.
Just jab.
Yeah. Just jabber.
Okay, we'll start. Maybe we'll start with, yeah, why don't we all, I don't know how we ended up with more chairs than we need. Can we have more light? That is a great question.
What is this?
JJ, where are you? He can turn the light back on when he, oh, there he is. Can you turn the light on a little bit? Okay, while that's happening, okay, great suggestion, Kelly. Okay, I would love to start just by having you folks introduce yourselves and your projects. Just tell us who you are, which of these projects belongs to you, and just give a little hint of a synopsis. We'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Laura Conway. I think you know a bit too much about me now already, so I won't say too much more, but I'm based in Colorado, and the project has gone.
Hi, my name is Kate Trumbull-LaValle. I am here
We didn't test
from
this.
LA. I have a project called Killface, and it's a film and an installation, and this is a 3-channel version of the film and project, and it's intended to be a meditation on female power and kind of requiring and demanding, maybe asking a little to sit with what it looks like when they're strong and at their maximum.
My name is Yasmine, and I over there. It's called Holding Sessions. It's a film and an installation. This is the installation version. It is in this iteration as an installation. It's about the archival research that we do as human beings, and sometimes as filmmakers, as we go through the things that we hold from the people we have lost. And it's the question about holding technology. So how does the sweater hold the memory of a person, or the life of a person, or the passion of a person differently than a Zoom interview, which is different from a book, an album. And it is a piece very seriously about the history of AIDS and the ongoing pandemic. We're in a syndemic now, which is occurring at the same time as COVID, also still a pandemic. So it also asks questions about how archives of the recent past are alive for us in the present.
My name is Berman Duff. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Mine also originated as a a 40-minute film, a video, and Mimesis invited me to turn it into an installation. I was delighted to do it because I realized that I'm going to talk a little bit at length about it, I realized. I would like the way it was operating on the larger screen, and it's based on, I was invited to do a film on the book, on the essay, What is Power, by Mahjoubi, by a group that maintaining his legacy. He died about 3 years ago. He was a philosopher and activist, and he conducted table readings around the world of arts. So they asked me to do it. I said, no, I'm not a documentary filmmaker. And then I read the essay, and I read it out loud to my husband, how long it was, and we were compelled by it. I said, I'm going to make a film about this and a film of this. We thought of Godard having people reading to the camera, and I told them I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and that was enact I think Fred's belief in the transformative experience of people reading out loud to each other. I think he must have, I never met him, but he must have believed in this when he did these table readings. So that's what I wanted to capture on film, not so much the content of the work, but what happened to people when they heard their own voices talking about power out loud. So I have the opportunity here to turn it into a table reading. And the brochures of the essay are for people to take. You're welcome to take it. There's the original book is on there, but you can take the little handouts if you want, and you can read along. And I'm hoping that maybe we could do an impromptu table reading sometime during the festival.
Okay, can Neelansh talk to us? We not know. Neelansh, can you try to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can't hear.
Am I audible to you?
Working on it. Can you?
I can hear you. Am I audible to you?
It seems she can.
Okay. All right. Well, Eric, keep working on that. I thought I would frame this conversation a little bit. So based on Laura introduces her looking at your failed projects, I think it's maybe more,
What speaker? I don't know which
I don't know. I would like to spin that a little bit. I can say that you're seemingly really interested in demystifying your process, like putting it all out there on the table, kind of the live edit, I think at the end has like a really interesting relationship with a lot of the projects in here too. But I just thought that, because we have taken some work that was submitted to the festival as single channel projects and asked you all to sort of re-envision those projects, talk a little bit about how the process felt for you. Kate, I know you were already thinking about yours as an installation, but you also have like this single channel version. So I think that is something that we as artists are often sort of grappling or juggling, like what form is this ultimately going to take? And it's not necessarily just one finite thing. So maybe just if you all have any thoughts about how your work relates to that idea, and if you'd like to demystify your process a little bit.
Could we try Neelansh again?
Let's try Neelansh again.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hi, it's actually 7:30 a.m. here, so good morning to everyone there at Colorado. Thank you for having us at the festival. My name is Neelansh. I'm based in New Delhi. and I'm a filmmaker. And my co-director Yasmine, who's from Casablanca, Morocco, couldn't join us for the conversation, but she also wishes the best to the festival. We'd actually okay. Am I still with you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Lovely. So we'd actually gone for this educational, we'd selected for this scholarship program in Paris last year, and that's where we met. And the program was to essentially create a sound documentary. So that's a form that none of us had ever traversed before. So we were there for about 2 months, and the purpose of the program was to create a sound documentary at the end of it. So which is on display here, and it's actually the first time it's going to be set up in an installation format. So I'm also quite excited to see how it's received there. So the documentary is essentially about this Spanish tour guide, Eva, who's been living in Paris for 7 years, and she conducts the Mysteries and Legends tour in Paris, exploring the dark and violent history. So the piece kind of oscillates between that, her tour, and the fears that she negotiates in contemporary Paris for herself. So yeah, I'm quite excited to hear how it goes.
Thank you, Neelansh. Oh, sorry. Okay. Why don't we hear from you folks, and then we'll maybe throw it out to the audience for questions if there are any out there. But first, we'll talk a little bit just about how this process felt for you, or whatever you want to say. We're like trying to be, or I feel inspired by Alex's project too, which I feel like has so many different layers of transparency like built into it. Yeah, any thoughts about that?
Maybe we should hear from you guys first.
So, I mean, I am a documentary filmmaker and I've worked in public television a lot. My first film was a public television film. I mean, it was a feature film, and I made public television. And there's a limitations when you work within kind of more traditional form, and I think like a lot of filmmakers felt exhausted by wearing hats, being the director, producer, your own grant writer, and it happened around the pandemic, which I think a lot of work happened around the pandemic. I wanted to just direct, which didn't happen, but I created a lot of scaffolding and limitations around this project that enabled me to see things a little bit more deeply. I think as a doc filmmaker, I'm often thinking about what's next, what else should I film, where else should I go, is it enough? And with Killface, the routine was built in. It was training and a fight. She's a working class fighter. She's not exceptional in terms of like an Olympian. She's a working class fighter, working and doing what she loves and struggling to do so. And that really makes sense as a filmmaker. And so I think the limitations just really helped clarify how I wanted to see her. I met her as like a friend in the gym because I was training too, and I just thought she was so strong. I struggled with being strong in my own life as a person, as a filmmaker, as a mom, as a woman, and I loved watching her fight. And she fought to the point where she sometimes wanted to throw up, and I liked witnessing that. So we witnessed that a lot. You know, the film almost looks seamless, but we filmed a lot for many days, and her training is exactly the same. So those are multiple days kind of sandwiched into a 16-minute piece. But there was something about really wanting to make something that I felt like while I watched her. So that's where the sound became so important, and the repetitiousness became important. And I think also with our cinematographer Helgi Franson, who's typically shoots very wide, we shot very close because we really wanted to, just like Natalie is always trying to land a hit, we wanted to land a hit, finding her face, finding her eyes, finding her body in a way that felt clear when there was so much movement. And all of those things happened because we stayed in one physical space, which was the gym and then the fight venue. And then it was, in terms of an installation, it so quickly became evident that this is not a film for a traditional film festival like I've experienced before. It's definitely not for public television. And it became exciting to explore like a nonfiction work beyond, I think at that point I was like, oh, I could do anything, you know? So the multiple screens, I really love the idea of it feeling immersive and close, and that you would get a little lost. So that's how the process started.
So there, was that? It was a kind of a crazy invitation to make an installation. I don't think in that way. I make my work. I always have. I was panicked, and then I had this brilliant meeting with the team here, and understood that invitation to think differently or more deeply about the piece that I had made. And so is quite, and it's a video, is quite different from the installation. So I think a few things I want to say. First of all, making video was always collaborative. It was exceedingly collaborative. The team here was insanely helpful and bought a lot of that furniture for me and thought about how to put things on the screen. So I really want to thank everyone here for being so open-hearted about that and so professional. You know, they built it for me, and it's a built environment. So, you know, when you that you imagine is flat and moving forward, you splatter it into a room, it produces obviously other affects as things hit up against each other. As documentarians, we think about cuts and we think about, you know, what happens across, or filmmakers, you know, one divide. That you call that out and you show that to us, and in a room, it's, you know, an infinite number of cuts as things press against each other, and that's really exciting to think about as a filmmaker. I guess the other thing that I would want to mention here is that, again, thank you for your presentation. You know, if people watch films and aren't filmmakers, but even if you watch them and you are, you do forget that, you know, 99% of it is on the cutting room floor. And we as filmmakers craft that in any, again, an infinite array of potential meanings. And so part of why I put the long interviews on the table is that they were brilliant. They're an hour long. That's what we do as documentarians. And, you know, 5 minutes of them make it into the film, but they're full of knowledge. They're rich with knowledge. They're not just rich with knowledge, they're rich with the compassion and love and commitment that I have with each of those people. But you can't learn that in the documentary. They get cut in to service to different footage. So part of what I wanted you to see showing scenes is all the material that we begin with that we craft into the one thing that we then put in the world. And so this project, the film, is made of movies that I made with friends on their request who died. It's a deathbed film, and those also are long. Had the duration that my two friends and I produced. I cut them up to mediation or meditation on them, but I wanted you to see them in their duration, the different function, the material that I handled. And I guess the other thing I want to talk about or think about in this hoping is transparent or more transparent about process is that, I think this is true in your position as well, when you go back to material that you shot before, or even made into a film before, it speaks again to you when you recut it against who you are and other material now. It's the beauty of editing for those of us who are wonky filmmakers, that, we can touch it over and over again. And this is a piece, sort of like your grandma piece, touching things over and over again that are lost to us physically, but stay very present to us. And in this case, I'm talking about people, but I'm also talking about movements, activist movements, in this case, AIDS activism, and also this film, the new project is about COVID, long COVID activism and disability justice movements in particular linked. As we touch them again, as my project is about aging with those things. They resonate again for us and feed us again as the people we love do, even in death. And it's a piece about trying to show you those layers of material that I'm visiting and revisiting again, which are layers of people and layers of ideas that feed me. And I hope that by seeing that a little behind the scenes, you think about whatever those layers are for you and whoever those people are for you and whatever those ideas are for you that continue across a lifetime, even though people die, because people die.
I also don't want to forget the Mimesis group for creating this amazing installation. The furniture in particular is just exquisite. I love it. I'm just so happy with the installation. Thanks, Jean-Jacques and Kurt and everybody. It's really great. I think mostly about structure rather than story. I'm a structuralist, non-narrative filmmaker normally, who works in 16 millimeter. So I'm looking at like film grain rather than the people in the story. But so I think in that level, and I was really amused by a section in Laura's piece where the kid runs off the end of the dock, never to be seen again, and then he's immediately shown running off the dock again. And I was like, that's film. That's what we get to do. I'm still not sure about this piece. I came up through sculpture and through, I call it analog film as an almost sculptural medium. I feel film when I'm using it. And so for me, the body is always implicated, and in its installation, the body has to be involved in how the installation works. And I think I'm accustomed to, with my films, normally they're black and white on a big screen, and everybody quiet. Sound is really silent, but sound is an important element. And, but it's very engaging to the eye and the body. And this is rather literal to table reading. And so I'm on the fence about does it still function? I guess I'm trying to get the audience to sit and be part of that circle. But I think the same thing happens when it's on a single screen. So I'm debating about it. I don't know. You can see it online, the whole 40-minute piece on a single screen, and you can tell me what you think about the difference. I'd really appreciate it.
Well, one of the things I would want to say about what you just said is that in the installation, I love the silent people listening, the freezing, but you're still in your faces. And one of the things I really loved when I started to work with Zoom as a pandemic technology, of the technology of our isolation, was that you always saw the two faces. You saw And we do that in Zoom. You see the person listening, and I really think that works in your piece.
Yeah, I'll just say a few things on the frame of like of thinking about the project as kind of pulling back the curtains or being about process. Is obvious now that I think about it, but yeah, I think that I get from film and art I participate in. You know, I've gone on a few music tours with my collaborator and in our band, and it's like this kind of circus life that I feel that I live sometimes. You're showing up at venues, or you're making these film projects, and you're working 12 hours a day to do something seemingly totally whimsical or ridiculous. And I really appreciate how, you know, there's like so much alienation in our life and world. You go to work, you go home, you're alone, maybe just with your nuclear family. Maybe you don't have a nuclear family, you're just by yourself. And I feel like something about art that I value so deeply is the communal tasks that we do together that are strange and like deeply so, and I love movies about the movies. It's kind of like a cliche, like, you know, like the Oscars movies about the movies. They're always giving them like La La Land or something. But I actually really do love movies like that. And so I think there's probably something like the lives of performers, like just so always will be interested in. And, you know, and there's one of the circus element and you know, the band on tour and all of that. And there's also the like really complicated social, emotional dynamics that I am engaging in, like asking a child to say, you know, terrible things that a Nazi would say at a concentration camp, or, you know, filming my grandfather on his deathbed, and having all these fights with my best friend at the time. So those are all things that were also like specifically created through film projects. The desire to create something, thinking about in terms of that project.
Yeah, thank you. Neelansh, what? Okay. I will. Neelansh? Oh, you?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You can hear me?
Yes.
So, I mean, was the question to kind of walk you through the process of making this piece? Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, it was kind of 12 of us who had come, attended the program, and we had to pair up. And the prerequisite was that within these 2 months, you have to kind of make a sound documentary, but within the Parisian social landscape. And all of us being completely new to that, had to really sort of step out and find something that we feel connected by. And Yasmine and I, and at a very basic level, sort of understood each other, that we want to kind of play with the sound design, just kind of experiment with it. A lot of our fellow colleagues they edge towards the idea of migration. So a lot of them were also looking at that theme. Whereas I think we kept it as an empty slate. So we kind of went, and as someone who's completely new to a city, we went for these tours. And so this was a special tour, which is Mysteries and Legends of Paris. And I think and we immediately met with Eva, our protagonist of our piece, and we kind of really sort of fell in love with her enthusiasm and her passion for her work, and how she almost every 2 days kind of welcomes a group of people into the city and introduces all these old, sort of the dark and violent history of Paris. So that became of a lot of interest to us. And I'm also, so personally, I'm also a film sound recordist on set. So for me to also merge sound, my recording as well with direction, it kind of really became this melting pot, which was really interesting and very intuitive to work with. So yeah, I think what I also observed in the form, which is also very new to us, is that I mean, sound essentially really allows you to activate the imagination of the listener, and that became really exciting territory. And you have to be completely rid of the image. So for 16 minutes there was no image, and it was just sound, and I think it really afforded us a lot to also play with on the edit. I think it became really exciting. Um, we went at odd hours of the night, walking on the streets of Paris to also record and listen to what the city sounds like when no one is around, and recording all sorts of things, and the vents of the metros, or footsteps, or other samples that we took, and to kind of bring it all together within sort of, so the entire process of making it was, I think, a few weeks. So it was quite like charged and quite fast, but we really thoroughly enjoyed it. And just thematically, I think, to just observe Ava on her own and navigate a city by herself, in contrast to what she mentions in her tour, also was of interest to us. And she introduced us to these brilliant texts that you also see in the piece. It's poetry and people and writers mentioning about their experience of Paris over the years. So that was roughly the process.
Thank you so much. I think we'll just see if there's a question there. Yes, I don't know.
Run into him.
Okay. Hold on.
Just
I guess I'd like to direct that to you, Lola, but not necessarily. Or anyway, the other projects too brought me back to Lugashivela and to Mohoinaidla, to some place where I was that has to do with golems and with coming to America, as with an interest in film where is continually haunted, isn't one? I'd love to hear your response, or anybody else.
I'm just thinking about, so back to Dada, and Dada performances you've seen, or films, and Hungarian photographers. Okay, cool. And I'm not sure where to go yet.
Somewhere in Germany, perhaps.
Somewhere in Germany. Yeah, I'm thinking about hauntings, and I want to make that. I don't have a good response right now, though. I wonder if you might have, if either of you guys have anything to say about hauntings and.
Well, the film, which is called, so first of all, that's my father, Joseph Juhasz, who is a professor emeritus of environmental design and architecture at the University of Colorado. So it's a familial affair and a bold affair. And a lot of families here wanted to shout out their presence. Documentary that I made is called Please Hold, and it thinks a lot about ghosts. Again, what I like about this festival and the work that it's sitting with is that we're thinking about that mimetically as filmmakers. We are thinking about how The medium itself is always a ghost medium. It is always already more or after a person. And then, of course, it holds people after they've died, and to revisit. And I guess I would say, because it's a question that the golem functions very differently. The golem is an idea made material, and film is material made into an idea, and that we can think with. And so it's a particularly poignant to be with, think about ghosts. And I feel like my project knows that, doesn't believe in ghosts or golems, but I believe that they're that all of them infuse the air we breathe and the ideas in our heads and what we hope for ourselves in the world. And that's why we make art.
I guess I just want to follow on the same theme. I immediately thought it's all ghosts. Like that's what film is. It's all ghosts. Thinking in mostly of Roland Barthes' discussion of what's called the Winter Garden photograph, a picture of his mother when she was a child in the Winter Garden, long after she died and long before he was born. But he uses it a way to talk about how I was going to say, like, the life is latent in the image somehow and persists. And so we look at is made of ghosts, according to the way he looks at it. I had something that I wrote down, actually, a piece, Laura, that I really love, the performance of a film that failed, a performance of failure. And I wrote down that things don't turn out the way we want, including death, which was a great theme for me.
Yeah, I think it's great that your dad is here, and that you said there's a few family members of yours here. My mom was here. I think she left maybe. But I've like slowly been showing this to my family. They were very involved in the Golem film, obviously, because those were all my cousins in the film. So I've been like slowly showing this project. I had asked them if I could, wear the wig and film Dave Bramhall on the final day. So there was like some sharing of like events that had happened that no one had ever seen yet. That's been interacting over the last year of making this project. Yeah, I'm like not really connected with ghosts. I think that probably like the closest thing for me would just be like inhabiting somebody else through film, through performance, through writing. I think that's not in the afterlife or beyond this world, but it is my way of like transcending myself. So
I think maybe one question, and then so Dawn, I know you had something to say, and then please just keep the conversation rolling after this formal sit-down part ends. Come up, talk about their projects, but let's see what Dawn has to ask.
It's great to have you all speaking. I wasn't able to give time to all the projects, and clearly Laura's was the most prominent for me. You really stimulated my interest in this, and I like the way you said it. Laura, I wanted to speak to your project. It reminded me so much of Ken Jacobs' work, Little Stabs at Happiness, where he has people obviously being poorly, intelligently, deliberately, and playing on glamour and Hollywood satire, and the fact that you have real people, and we're not invited to identify with them so much. We're invited to observe, and you're the intermediary. And that worked really well. So I wasn't looking at it as a normal film. I was looking at it as performances, and it made people look even more fragile to the point of death with your grandfather. You playing grandmother, giving performance to thoughts and feelings in the form that you're able to express it in really worked for me. In this odd, you touched on a Ken Jacobs oddness. He never did the live talking with it, but you and he are on a similar channel, and also glamour. You really played with the idea of glamour and kind of put it down in an interesting way. So thank you.
Response?
Thanks so much, Don, and thanks for coming and watching. I think that someone previously like, oh, you know, the most real thing you can do is like go up in front of people and perform for them. Like that's not performing. That's like just like actually sharing your most vulnerable self. There's nothing more like scary, intimate, you know, close, vulnerable, being in front of people and showing them something. I can see that in actors when you're watching them, not like believing they're acting, but when you're watching them try to act, which I feel like kids like, and they're bad, you know, sometimes it makes you even more, them seem even more human. So I appreciate that idea about performance or about acting or, you know, dancing, performing arts, the deep, scary intimacy that it involves.
This is just a thought to end the evening with. Thank you all for having us, first of all, and thank you all for coming. What we didn't get to talk about, because, you know, you talk about what's in front of you, is the two pieces about power. And that was very resonant for me, you know, across the room. And, you know, for cisgendered female filmmakers, and, you know, what it means for us all to be occupying this space. So maybe when we're all together with each other about female power and filmmaking, because it's really live in your piece, and have an opportunity to hear you talk about that some more. But we look forward, and your I just wanted to leave us with, you know, girl power.
Okay, thank you. The four of you, thank you so much. Neelansh, thank you for joining us from afar. And everyone check out Sound of the Ghosts and the rest of the projects. Like Eric mentioned, they will be on view for the rest of the week. So if you didn't feel like you had enough time to spend with them, come back. And there's more food. Talk to these folks after. Thank you.